George Sawtooth here, another video. Look at this gorgeous blue sky, Colorado blue sky. You see that airplane? Do you see that airplane way up over there behind that tree? What a beautiful, clear, beautiful day it is. Linn Grove Cemetery, Greeley, Colorado. Just a few minutes earlier, there was some crazy dude in a black Jeep plowing through a cemetery. What kind of nut job does that? Jeez, do people know? They don't have respect for anything anymore, do they? It's ridiculous. I know through my neighborhood, people drive through neighborhoods. You know, the speed limit is 25 miles an hour through, and most people go a lot faster than that. Very disrespectful. Here's a grave, Matlock. Remember the show Matlock with Andy Griffith? That was a great show. So a few weeks ago, around Thanksgiving, I made a video of Dearfield black settlement in between Greeley and Fort Morgan. And I used to drive by that old settlement because I lived in Fort Morgan, grew up in Fort Morgan, and I went to Colorado State University in Fort Collins. And I would go home and see my parents. I'd drive by Dearfield, Colorado all the time. Look at this beautiful tree here. And then there's a blue spruce here. That's a tall sucker. Anyway, I'm at the grave of Oliver T. Jackson, buried next to his wife Minerva. Second wife, actually. She died in 1942. He died in 1948. But he founded the Dearfield town. It was a black community, and it was actually very successful for a few years. They raised corn, squash, melons, hay, sugar beets, ducks, chicken, and even turkeys. In 1921, the land was valued at $750,000. In 1921, that's quite a bit of money. The population had reached 700. Had 2 churches, a blacksmith shop, a filling station. I remember that filling station. I don't think it was working at that time that I was going to college, but I do remember some old gas pumps there. Had a cement factory too. Yeah, so Oliver T. Jackson, born Oxford, Ohio, son of former slaves Hezekiah Jackson and Caroline Jackson. He married Sarah. His first wife was Sarah Cook, or Sadie Cook. Married her in 1889. She was the aunt of a famous composer, Will Marion Cook. He was also a violinist. So if you look him up, I think he toured in England a lot because he was a very accomplished violin player. O.T. Jackson lived for a little while at 2228 Pine Street in Boulder. He operated the Stillman Cafe and Ice Cream Parlor on 13th Street. They said it was very successful. He also owned a farm adjacent to that Pine Street, and he owned that for 16 years. He was also, in 1898, he was the manager of the Chautauqua Dining Hall. So this guy was an entrepreneur. He also owned a restaurant on 55th and Arapahoe Street. Served seafood way back in the late 1800s, 1890s. It closed in 1907, but it was a seafood restaurant. I guess it was very successful. People loved it. You wouldn't think there'd be a seafood restaurant way back around 1900. For some reason, I don't know, there's some confusion whether his first wife, Sarah, died or they got a divorce, but he married Minerva in 1905. In 1908, he moved to Denver and began a 22-year career as a messenger for Colorado governors. And he did a lot of work for the governors. And he became friends with Governor John Shalfoth. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But he was the governor in the early 1900s. And he helped Oliver Jackson buy this 322-acre tract and was later called Dearfield. And there was, back in that time, there was only 20% of blacks working on farms, and none of them really owned much farms. So he thought that maybe forming a farming community with black people, so that they could do their own agriculture, he thought that would empower the Colorado black people. And it was very successful for a little while, up until, unfortunately, the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression, but mostly the Dust Bowl happened, and lack of rainfall, and a lot of the people, because of that, started losing kind of their money. You know, their income stopped coming in because they couldn't grow anything. A lot of people moved out. He continued to stay in Dearfield because his vision, he wanted a great community. That wouldn't that be cool if it had worked out, that damn Dust Bowl hadn't come. And so after the Dust Bowl, it kind of dwindled, and but he stayed on and died at 1948. He had a couple nieces. He asked them to come, I believe, from New York or Chicago. One of his names was Jenny. What was the other girl's name? I can't remember. But Jenny actually stayed on and helped him in his later years. I think he died at the age of 84. And he still owned that land. And he was actually tried to get other younger black guys to take over, black men to take over that community and continue on his vision. But he really couldn't find anybody, unfortunately. His niece who helped him, Jenny, she continued living there till 1973, when she died. I'm not sure where she's buried. But yeah, he was a successful businessman. They said there was a lot of systemic racism back in those days, but boy, it sure didn't show up in his life, did it? Because he was a very successful man for a long time, until, you know, Mother Nature took over and kind of messed up his dream. But yeah, Oliver T. Jackson. I have a video of showing the remains of that Dearfield, and one of those collapsed buildings was the auto shop, even, where they worked on cars. I think I peered through the rear of that building. Remember, there was some bad graffiti in there as well. It's too bad people have to go in there and mess with old historical buildings. What else could I tell you about Oliver T. Jackson? I'm sure he knew there was another black guy and black man in Denver. I guess I should say African American, but his name was Barney Ford. But he was another very successful entrepreneur. He's buried in Riverside Cemetery. I bet you those guys knew each other. But yeah, and when he was manager at Chautauqua Dining Hall in 1898, he was in charge of 70 people. Can you believe being in charge of 70 people? Wow. Just amazing. And this is very interesting too. See how things, synchronicity happens? Remember that grave over there? His name was Matlock. Minerva, her name before she got married to Mr. Oliver T. Jackson, she was Minerva Matlock. So how do you like that for synchronicity? Very amazing, this world, this very mysterious world we live in. So hopefully one day the Colorado Historical Society can rebuild some of those buildings over there in Dearfield. And they named it Dearfield. That doctor named it Dearfield because he knew in his heart, he thought in his heart that land is going to be dear to everybody. All right, here I am at Linn Grove Cemetery. Beautiful cemetery. Right on Oliver T. Jackson grave. All right. hope he's having fun in his wherever he is now. I'm sure he is. Okay, guys, go out and enjoy some nice scenery. Go out and enjoy the weather. Go out and enjoy some history, and just enjoy and take in everything that you can every day. God bless. Bye.